All right, boom. Welcome back, folks. Hey, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, man. All right, so this video is called What Would MLK Say? All right, so it is January 15th. It is Martin Luther King Day. First and foremost, rest in peace to the late and great Martin Luther King. Um, all praise to you and all your struggles and everything you've done for your own. Um, I give a big shout out and a big salute to the Martin Luther King family, Miss Coretta Scott King. Uh, my father had the great pleasure of meeting you when you awarded him the Martin Luther King Peace Award back in 92, 93, back in Atlanta. And, he spoke high praises of you and your family and how hospitable you guys were to my father and when he came to receive that award, and how graciously you bestowed that honor, in the name of your husband, Miss Coretta Scott King. I have nothing but the utmost respect for you and the legacy that you represent and the legacy of Dr. King. With that being said, I'm making this video with kind of a sore heart, obviously with the obvious. We're celebrating not only a man of peace, but we're celebrating a man of pure faith, right? He was a distinguished man of honor. Obviously, he had his flaws like anybody else. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't perfect, but one thing's for sure is that what he stood for was perfect, right? What he stood for was more than perfect. And it's just unfortunate that just like so many others who have stood for purity and perfection and most importantly, peace, they have met nothing but violent, repercussions and have been met with nothing but violent results and feedback. Um, it's unfortunate that, today that he is nothing but a memory, and and I say that because the things that he fought for, I feel like not only are his predecessors and the ones that came after him, what I'm saying, the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons, the one that was actually marching with him and are still here to carry on that work. I wonder how they feel on days like this. I really wonder how they feel. I really wonder if they feel like not only is the job done, but what else is there to do, and have they done enough? With them still having air in their lungs for them to do, right? At the same time, while this man who stood for such peace and honor, was gunned down savagely like a damn dog, right? And then John F. Kennedy, he was gunned down too. Boom, right? This is all around the same time. And so my point is that instead of us practicing what the man stood for, all we do is we just created a memory of what he stood for. Now, the reason why I say that is because anything and everything that man went through, he did that because he wanted the betterment and the equality of people to be at a higher level of existence within society, right? He wanted for everyone to coexist in the same space peacefully, and to do that without any tension nor any animosity. And so what the civil rights movement created was an initiative, right, which was the affirmative action, and that was non-discriminational laws all the way to the federal level. They passed a few laws, as a matter of fact, and this video is also going to break down the results of that. This is 2018, and how have those efforts transitioned to today's world, right? Are things better, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try my best to be positive, because we have been through this before, right? We've been through this before, and I feel like anytime anybody says anything ill about or different about the civil rights movement, he's kind of deemed as a pessimist, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you statistics better than just me telling you my opinion, because what I try to base my opinion on is statistics, right? First, I just go outside and I live, right? And then secondary is statistics. So we're going to break down then, and we're going to break down now. And then we're going to break down who and how did civil rights help, and then we're also going to break down the face of the country that Martin Luther King so graciously died for, right? And anybody who is who doesn't understand, who's never celebrated Martin Luther King Day, or just only knows him as just the preacher man who did the "I Have a Dream" speech, I really hope you take the time to pay attention to the things that I'm about to tell you guys, so y'all can understand how I see it, and then y'all can understand how anybody who has sense and logic sees these numbers and sees how things really are out here. You see, what's unfortunate is that Dr. King's anniversary was followed, well, actually, it came after some very vicious remarks from the president of the country, right? But the fortunate thing about it is which I agree, which is what I really like about what's going on nowadays, is that it's everybody's card is being pulled, right? Everybody's card is being pulled. Whoever you are and how you are, it's being revealed. You know what I mean? From the pedophiles to the these the sexual, the Harvey Weinsteins, to these, to these guys right here, to these dudes over here with the, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought, to people like Donald Trump, right, who come at us in one way and then act another. He had made a remark in regards to African countries, South American countries, calling them shitholes, and saying not only did he not want anybody from them places in America, but he was pushing for more white European people, and he said specifically Norway, right? And so it didn't take that statement for us to confirm the fact that this president is racist. We've been knowing that, because even before he was president, he was racially insulting the black president, right? So it's a beautiful thing when I saw a black president. It was cool to see, but not only during his terms, but after, you see the effects of a black president, right? And so when you think about the civil rights movement, when I think about Martin Luther King, that's what I ask myself. I say, today, what does it look like? Today, what does it look like? And so today, unfortunately, we have a president that not only does not represent the sentiments and does not echo the epitome of equality like Dr. King. Not only does he not do any of that stuff, but he actually promotes indecisiveness. He promotes segregation. He promotes bigotry. He promotes misogyny. Most importantly, he promotes racism itself. And he is, you know what I'm saying? It's like he has no qualms about it. From calling NFL players who were peacefully protesting, from calling them sons of bitches, to accusing, at the time, the president, Obama, of being a Muslim and born in Kenya. Like somehow he grabbed a birth certificate and fooled the whole goddamn world, including the CIAs and FBIs and everything else, all the way to his personal business on how he made it a point not only employ black people, but also not house him in the buildings that he owned, right? And he's been sued plenty of times for specifically racial discrimination with his residents. And so I say to y'all, when we look at it and we say it's Martin Luther King Day, I say today, the the leader of this country, does he represent what Martin Luther King died for? Does he echo the same sentiments? Does he echo the same energy, the same positivity that Dr. King used to echo? Does he encourage equality and balance of power and decision making, distribution of wealth, distribution of academics? Does he encourage these things? So I'm saying I don't even have to answer that for y'all. And it's unfortunate that I have to make this type of video and explain this shit so kind of tediously and because I honestly feel that people are that not only confused but are that different in ideology and opinion on this man and what he represents in whole, right? It's crazy what had happened over here this in Hawaii with this accidental alert that was sent off that had everybody in Hawaii flipping out because they thought a damn bomb was coming. And somebody had to claim responsibility for that, and I'm pretty sure somebody got fired. But most importantly, Hawaii itself, the people were embarrassed, the staff was embarrassed, right? It just created this whole hoopla and this and this fuss. But see, I don't blame Hawaii. I don't blame the staff. I don't blame any of those people. The person I blame is the one that started the instigation and the talking to where we even got to anybody accidentally pressing that thing, that alert. For a grown man to incite nuclear war talk is what prompted that button to be accidentally pressed. It wasn't them Hawaiian people who just accidentally just tripped and they were hovering all over that button just because the president of the United States was instigating war. So not only from that level, but then he calls these African countries and South American countries shithole countries. Boom, there's another fire. I can keep going. Don't get me started on the whole Russia thing. Don't get me started on the NFL thing. Don't get me started on the sexual harassment thing. It just doesn't stop with this guy. And then now put him next to Dr. King, who had to die for speaking the complete opposite. And that's the man who is the face of this country. And then today, January 15th, we celebrate a man who is the complete opposite of that, while we have this in office. And then what's even more unfortunate for me is that we look at the demographic of our political realm, from the House, from the Senate to Congress. And I ask myself, 30, 40 years down the line, it's 40 years down the line since civil rights. And I ask myself, has there been any change? And how much change? How many people look different when you walk into the House and the Senate and the Congress, who are part of making the decisions for everybody else who looks different? Because that's what Dr. King was talking about when he said he had a dream. Is that you can walk into a place where, first of all, just the name White House, I think when we get to that point, I don't think we'll call it a White House. But when we get to that point, it'll be a balanced demographic of representatives of all cultures, states and counties, and people who are making decisions cohesively That's what Dr. King was talking about, not what we see right now, where it's still only a one side of people who are making decisions for everybody else. But then what makes it even worse is they don't take anybody else's opinion into consideration. Hence, the leader of the country calling third world countries shitholes, as if anyone who comes in this country, he has to like them, or he has to like where they're from. So we're going to go ahead and break that down a little bit, and I'm going to show y'all numbers in regards to how much did, what exactly did Dr. King die for? And we out here, it's like, I even heard a thing that Donald Trump was saying about Dr. King, about how he's a man of peace. And it's like, I wonder, it's like, I don't, first of all, he doesn't even deserve to be addressing Dr. King in any manner, because he completely spits on everything Dr. King represents. Everything that Dr. King represents, Donald Trump spits on it. He spits on it. So for him to address him in any kind of manner, not only is it fake, but it's disrespectful, because we know how you move, yet you're going to talk about this man as if he was here, you would respect him too. But see, we know very well that if Dr. King was alive, Donald Trump would be calling him all sorts of names too, just like any other black man that he has ever talked to and that's had any kind of disagreement with. We know that. We know that. If he's going to accuse the first black president of being a Muslim, which could have potentially got him hurt, and then also say he was Kenyan, not even from this country, which is basically insinuating it was a criminal act, that he somehow created some fake identification. So literally just creating not only just stories, but stories that not only could get somebody hurt, but it can also get somebody incarcerated. Not just lying about he was cheating on his wife. These are defamatory statements that could get somebody hurt or put in jail. And he said these things with not only no remorse, but with no hesitation. And this was before y'all made him president. So that confirms that it was okay with the masses. So that's what I'm saying, Dr. King, when was Dr. King's respect in and admiration, and how he was a great man? The Paul Ryan's talking about they sat and listened to his speeches. Then how are you affected by those speeches in your decision making? I don't get how you people can talk about this man but not emulate him, when y'all know he was a greater man than y'all. Y'all know he was a greater man than y'all. And y'all are in the positions of power to create these changes. But not only do y'all not do that, but then you guys they create this rhetoric of fake respect. You respect a man that died for peace and equality, yet you promote the opposite every single day, day in, day out. How do you how was that respect? How was that respect? How is that respect? What sounds more normal to me is when he talks highly of people like Putin. That makes sense to me, because they're like-minded. You see what I'm saying? When people are like-minded, I get it. I get it. So let's go ahead and go to the first piece here. So like I said, when I at least think about Dr. King, I think about what he stood for in regards to anybody and everybody deserves liberty, justice, and most importantly, opportunity. You know, we all know that about Dr. King. But see, we can't say the same about today's leaders. And that's why for me, not only do I find it disgraceful, but I find it disrespectful, highly disrespectful, when a man like Dr. King, who stood for so much and was willing to die for it, is spoken about from a man who doesn't stand for anything and ain't ready to die for nothing. You know, he was scared to go to war when it was cracking in Vietnam. He was scared to go then, so I'm pretty sure he damn sure is scared to go now. He'll send somebody. He'll pay somebody before he do anything. But we know what Dr. King would do, right? We know what he'll do. He'll walk those streets. He'll march those streets. He'll sit in, stand in. He'll preach. He'll do it all. Why? And it's not for money. It wasn't for monetary gains. It wasn't for political gain. Anything and everything that Dr. King was doing it had nothing to do with him. But then now let's look at our quote unquote leader. Does he do for others? Anything and everything he does he march the streets and does he fight for others' equality or just his own? Literally his own. In the 70s, how convenient, in the 70s, which is right around the corner from the civil rights. Civil rights was in the late 60s. So, 70s was basically the same time. Trump's real estate company tried to avoid renting apartments to African Americans and gave preferential treatment to whites, according to the federal government, not according to me, according to the government. Trump treated black employees at his casinos differently from whites, according to multiple sources. A former hotel executive said Trump criticized a black accountant. Black guys counting my money. I hate it. I think that guy's lazy, and it's probably not his fault because laziness is a trait in blacks. I'm not even pretty sure. The way he acts, that motherfucker, that's exactly how he feels. This is an ad that he had put out in New York Times or one of those New York magazines. Bring back the death penalty, bring back our police. Signed by Donald J. Trump. In '89, Trump took out ads in New York newspapers urging the death penalty for 5 black and Latino teenagers accused of raping a white woman in Central Park. He argued they were guilty as late as October 2016, more than 10 years after DNA evidence had exonerated them. I'm going to read that one more time. And then y'all think about Dr. King. And did that man die for this? 2017, the president of the country, this is what he was doing. In 1989, Trump took out ads in New York newspapers urging the death penalty for 5 black and Latino teenagers accused of raping a white woman in Central Park. He argued they were guilty as late as of October 2016, more than 10 years after DNA evidence had exonerated them. This is the man that runs the country. In 1989 on NBC, Trump said, I think sometimes a black may think they don't have an advantage or this and that. I've said on one occasion, even about myself, if I were starting off today, I would love to be a well-educated black because I really believe they do have an actual advantage. That's what he just calls us, blacks. Because this is what we look like to him, we're just black. Fuck who we are, right? Let's just call us what we look like. So I'm going to call him Cheeto because he looked like a Cheeto to me. Cheeto in chief. I'm going to call him Cheeto. Okay, so what else we got here? He began in 2016 presidential campaign with a speech disparaging Mexican immigrants as criminals and rapists. Is this the man? This is the man that represents the country. He uses the gang MS-13 to disparage all immigrants. Among many other statements, he has suggested that Obama's protection of the Dreamers, otherwise law-abiding immigrants who were brought to the United States illegally as children, contributed to the spread of MS-13, which statistically it's been shown that actually more than 80% of illegal immigrants, especially coming out of Mexico, not only are they not causing any problems, but they actually are making it a point to not cause problems just because of the fact they're illegal. They have kids that they got to take care of. They have kids they got to take to school every day. Most of them actually have jobs where they're working 40 to 70 hours a week. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how you can be gangbanging while you're working 70 hours a week and taking care of kids. That's because most of them who come here, that's not what they're doing. Obviously, there's a percentage of criminals everywhere. But for him to make it seem that majority of Mexican people that come to this country are nothing but criminals, it's just downright racist and disrespectful. And we know exactly what point he's trying to stress, is that to him, they're all that. To him, they're all MS-13 gangbangers, they're all rapists. To him. In December 2015, Trump called for a total and complete shutdown of Muslim entering in the United States, including refusing to readmit Muslim American citizens who were outside of the country at the time. So people who actually lived here and were born Americans but were Muslim, just because they were Muslims, they actually had problems coming back into the country. Is this something that Dr. King stood for? And we know, I know the answer to that, and I know that's a dumb question, but I have to ask y'all that because it was dumb to put this man as president. So I have to ask y'all. It's like, how do we go from someone like Obama, who, even if you didn't agree with him, the last thing he was doing was just hating on a whole group of people, because we all know that is not right to do. So for this to be out so, for him to say these things profusely, I do not understand. I do understand, but I'm trying my best to relay to you people, to everybody for that matter. And when I say you people, I mean the idiots who voted for this man. That's what I mean. And you can be white, black, Indian, because I know a lot of black people voted for him too. I know a lot of dumbass Mexicans voted for him. There's a lot of dumbass people who voted for this man. But my point is this: we cannot don't utter Martin Luther King's name and this man's name in the same breath. I'm gonna tell you that, okay? You can like anybody you want, but what you're not gonna do is stain Dr. King's name or his memory or anything about him by associating him with a country that has put this man as a leader after someone like Dr. King giving his life for equality. And then we give somebody who promotes nothing but inequality more than 40 years later. Literally anything and everything that Dr. King has accomplished, this man is pushing it all the way back. Just his presence alone. Just his presence alone. Never mind the shit he's already signed off on in regards to trying to ban Muslims, in regards to trying to build a wall, in regards to trying to deport all these Mexican immigrants. Nothing but divisiveness. Nothing but racist rhetoric. That's it. And so it's hard for me to believe that people who support Trump actually respect Dr. King for actually what he did and for what he died for. And I don't think most of y'all even recognize it if y'all support this man, because it is oil and water for what Dr. King stood for and what this man stood for. So like I said, for him, or for anybody else to put them two in the same breath, that is a bad move. That's blasphemy. It's straight up blasphemy. Real talk. Trump said a federal judge hearing a case about Trump University was biased because the judge had Mexican heritage. In June 2017, Trump said 15,000 recent immigrants from Haiti all have AIDS, and that 40,000 Nigerians once seeing the United States would never go back to their huts in Africa. And this is the man, that's what I'm saying, this is the man who earlier today I saw him talking about Dr. King as if he was here, he would shake his hand. See, but how, when not even 6 months ago, he was saying that people in Haiti have AIDS. Everybody got AIDS. 40,000 Nigerians once seeing the United States, they'll never go back to their huts. Like, how do you talk like that? And then the next breath, you want to talk about how much you admire Dr. King. And then that's what I'm saying, then the Paul Ryans, who also want to come out there and act like if Dr. King was here, they would shake his hand when you go against everything he stood for. You condone anything and everything that your boss does because you're scared you're going to lose your job. Yet you say you stand for something. That's what I'm saying. For these people to call themselves men is beyond me. It's beyond me. And this is the crazy thing about it too. Y'all got secret services and all sorts of police. Y'all got the whole government on your back, right? Y'all got the whole government protecting y'all when y'all do this. And I'm talking about the Paul Ryans and the Trumps, right? Because they wouldn't be saying this without security, you know, right? They wouldn't be saying none of this without security, right? So my thing is that Dr. King didn't have none of that. And he was doing the most. He had no secret service. He had none of that. All he had was his own. Million Man March, all of that. No secret service, no nothing. Maybe the church had a few bodyguards. But my point is, he didn't have an army to back him up. He did this because he was convicted and he knew that it was the right thing to do. But see, people who talk like this, who call other people, who just paint a broad stroke and say all these people have AIDS and say when they go back to the huts, people who talk like that, the only reason why they talk like that is because they got people behind them. That's it. Because they would not talk like that. And if anything else, they'll just talk like that behind their closed doors. Because they will not say that in front of those Nigerians. They would not say that in front of those Haitians. They will never say that in front of those Nigerians and those Haitians. Ever. Ever. They will tweet it. They'll say it with their friends and their family. And then say it with the Secret Service behind them. Besides that, you will never see anybody who talks like this say it to the person they're referring to, ever. That's why they talk like this, is because they can say it from afar. That's why. At the White House on January 11th, Trump vulgarly called for less immigration from Haiti and Africa and more from Norway by calling them shithole countries. And so that's the man, right? That's the man. One of his tweets in 2012, he says an extremely credible source has called my office and told me that Barack Obama's birth certificate is a fraud. He wasn't even president here. And so this is the man who highly respects Dr. King. If he talks like this, knowing damn well he doesn't have no extremely credible source. He was just creating friction. The same way he's been doing in regards to the Muslims, creating a component. The same thing he's been doing with the Mexicans, creating a fear component. The same thing he's been doing with the NFL people, creating a fear component. The same thing he's been doing with North Korea, creating a fear component, which it actually had people accidentally pressing buttons and accidentally triggering the damn bomb alarm for the whole goddamn country. I mean, the whole damn state over there. This is the energy that this man brings. So That's what I'm saying. Like, y'all have to understand when I say that what did the civil rights movement do when we have a leader like this in place, present day, who talks this freely and this racist? What did the civil rights do? What did Dr. King die for? Or did they just, not even or, they just killed, all they did just move them out the way. They just killed them and moved them out the way. So people like Donald Trump can become president in 2018 and tell us that he thinks this country's a shithole, this country's a shithole, because they're black, so I don't want them here. Let's get more white people here who have nothing to do with America. Let's do that. That's all it did. That's all it did. It just made people like him grow up to become powerful enough to be able to talk this shit behind their security. That's it. Trump called Obama, who was an editor-in-chief of the Harvard Law Review, a terrible student. And it's funny that he says that because according to the Washington Post, Donald Trump speaks at a fourth grade level, the lowest of last 15 U.S. presidents, according to analysis. Donald Trump connects with American people by using a language that even a fourth grader could understand, according to a recently published analysis by Fact based on the speech patterns of the last 15 U.S. presidents. The analysis looked at the first 30,000 words each president spoke in office and ranked each of the president's speech, going back to Herbert Hoover, using the Flesch-Kincaid grade level scale and several other tests that commonly analyze English language difficulty levels. Okay, so he's talking about a man who went to Harvard and was a lawyer, talking about that he's not smart, and then he says he's really smart, like really smart, right? Well, come to find out, this brilliant guy that you guys voted for, that you guys thought that was just going to revolutionize this country, yeah, he talks at a fourth grade level. Yeah, so that was a great analysis of y'all to just see, the brilliance in him, right? Y'all saw the complete fourth grade in him, right? So let's look at this, the presidential vocabulary by grade level. Let's check this out. Let's look at this graph real quick. Okay. All right. So what we got here? So we got Trump. We got the brilliant Trump, because y'all saw the brilliance in him. Y'all saw how genius he was. Well, he's damn near a fifth grader. He's damn near fifth grade smart when it comes to his vocabulary. Yep. Yeah, y'all, that was pretty good. I like that. Well, why don't we check out Bush? Okay. George W., what is it, 6.7? Then the other Bush was 7.4, right? So seventh grade, sixth grade vocabulary level. Kennedy was at eighth grade, damn near ninth grade vocabulary level. Clinton was at a ninth grade vocabulary level. Nixon was at a 9.4. Where's Obama at? Obama is at a 9.7 vocabulary level. So a guy who's at a fourth grade vocabulary level is telling us, the same guy who said the man who is at a 9.7 grade level is not even from his country, is an idiot. So like I said, that speaks for itself. And this study was done by Fact Base on the speech patterns of the last U.S. presidents. And like I said, this is a Washington Post article. Among those at the top of the list were Hoover and Jimmy Carter, who the research suggested spoke at an 11th grade level of communicating with the public. Former President Barack Obama made third place, scoring a high 9th grade level, and Trump was found to have the worst ranking since Harry Truman in 1945 by scoring at a 4th grade level. So that means that your president is not like really smart. And by him saying like really smart, that should have told y'all. I'm pretty sure y'all. So I'm saying the thing is that y'all know how dumb he is. But for some reason, y'all just act like it's all good, right? Well, I'll keep letting y'all know how much of an idiot he is. And hopefully y'all realize it one day and feel like idiots for even voting this man into power. So anyway, where was I at? So he says here, Obama's admitted that he spends his mornings watching ESPN and he plays golf, fundraises, and grants amnesty to illegals. So he acting like Obama shouldn't be playing golf, yet he spends the majority of his presidency literally at a golf course. So, I mean, just that's what I'm saying, man. Just the contradictions and just saying one thing, doing the other, all nonchalant. It's just that's what I'm saying. It's so. I almost feel stupid by almost talking about it just because I feel like everybody knows what's going on, but they just ignore this shit. It's fucking strange. I'll tell you that. Strange as hell. Trump falsely claimed that President Obama issued a statement for Kwanzaa, but failed to issue one for Christmas. Falsely claimed, just bald-faced lied about it. He often cast heavily black American cities as dysto, dys, dystopian war zones. In 2016 debate with Hillary Clinton, Trump said our inner cities, African American Hispanics, are living in hell because it's so dangerous. You walk down the street, you get shot. Trump also said to black voters, you're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs. He frequently offers false crime statistics to exaggerate urban crime, including about Oakland, Philadelphia, and Ferguson, Missouri. And that's the thing too, is like, how are you the president of the country and you always just lying? Like you always just saying shit that's not even true. Like what type of shit is that? Like I don't understand how that is even accepted as the norm nowadays. That literally just make up any fucking percentage you want. Yeah, all the Mexicans are bringing rapists. Well, what statistics will tell you that? Because that's not true. Well, someone's doing the raping. What the fuck does that mean? What you mean somebody's doing? Well, somebody's doing the raping. How do you How do you even converse with somebody who just paints such a broad stroke about anything? How do you make that person president? How do you trust the future of your kids to somebody who speaks and moves so recklessly? Just out report, United Kingdom crime rises 13% annually amid spread of racial Islamic terror. Not good. We must keep America safe. You see, just fear, instigating fear, and then talking about one type of people. Is this what Dr. King stood for? Is this what he died for? For the president of today to be instigating international fear and talking about a group of religious people as if they're all terrorists, when that's not true. Is this how we want our kids to be talking when they're in positions of power? Just period, walking down the street and just assuming all one group of people is this and that. And then when they are convinced of whatever perverse or fucking insane thought, then they go out and try to, pour gas on the fire, so to speak, to incite more aggression and racism and violence. All this is promoting more violence, towards these people and vice versa, you know? And so I ask y'all, is this what Dr. King died for? I ask y'all. If you support this, then that's what I'm saying. You have no reason to be even speaking of Dr. King. Don't even talk about him. Don't even speak of him. If this is what you support, you don't even speak of the man. You know what I'm saying? Like lightning should strike you down dead if you talk about Martin Luther King and talk about him with such grace and admiration, yet you support these leaders of today who promote the complete opposite. You are literally disrespecting the honor of the man who died so graciously for others while this man here lives for no one but himself. He is quick to highlight crimes committed by dark-skinned people, sometimes exaggerating or lying about them, such as claim about growing crime of radical Islam terror in Britain. He's very slow to decry hate crimes committed by whites against dark-skinned people, such as the killing of the Indiana man in Kansas last year. So I showed y'all the piece where he was taking out ads talking about bring back the death penalty, about these 5 black kids and Latin kids who were accused of raping this white woman. And even 10 years later, 2016, he was still saying they were guilty, even though DNA exonerated them. When Charlottesville happened, when the KKK racist motherfuckers came out there because they didn't want the statue of Robert E. Lee to be taken down, a little white girl ended up dying because she was there to defend the equality rights of taking that statue down. And so not only that little girl died, but a whole bunch of commotion and people got hurt doing that whole thing. And what did Trump do? Acted like everything was cool and that the racist, the KKK people had good people on their side too. Played that shit off like it was nothing. But he's ready to send the National Guard over to Chicago because there's black crime over there. And if y'all don't know, Donald Trump's, that's why you don't hear about Donald Trump's father, is because Donald Trump's father was part of the Ku Klux Klan. Donald Trump actually not only has land in Virginia, but he has strong family ties in Virginia and strong Klan ties in Virginia. That's why he was obligated to defend them, is because he knew that he couldn't go back home if he didn't defend them. And I'll say it. I'll say it. You see, there's a difference between people like me and people like Trump. There's a difference between people like Dr. King and people like Dr. Trump. You see, us, we ready. We don't need security. We don't need Secret Service. I'll tell you the truth right now because I'm ready to die for it any day. You see what I'm saying? You see, the thing about people like Dr. King is that when he died, we multiplied. Ain't shit changed in the government, but out here it changed for us because there's more of us who think like Dr. King, and there's more Dr. Kings than you can ever imagine. You can ever imagine. And we've evolved. I'll tell you that right now. That's what Dr. King told me. That's what he taught me. You speak, and you speak without fear. I don't care what gun, I don't care what prison, I don't care what money, I don't care what army, I don't give a goddamn what y'all got. I don't care. Never did. What I care about is the truth. What I care about is equality. That's what I care about. And I'm going to keep fighting for that. But see, what y'all don't understand is that we can keep acting like every year, January 15th, we have made this progress. But then all you gotta do is turn on your TV and see the leader of this country and it tells you everything. It tells you every little bit of it. He frequently criticizes prominent African Americans for being unpatriotic, ungrateful, and disrespectful. And he frequently criticizes prominent black leaders too, with the same type of rhetoric. He called Puerto Ricans who criticize his administration's response to Hurricane Maria politically motivated ingrates. Friendliness with proud racists and white nationalists. White genocide. Real Donald Trump. Poor Jeb. I could have sworn I saw him outside Trump Tower the other day. He has retweeted white nationalists without apology. He called some of those who marched alongside white supremacists in Charlottesville, Virginia, last August, very fine people, quote unquote. After David Duke, the former leader of the Ku Klux Klan, endorsed him, Trump was reluctant to disavow Duke even when asked directly on TV. He was reluctant to disavow Duke even when asked directly on television. But then, I wish they would have asked him something about Martin Luther King right after that, see what he'd done. Trump hired Steve Bannon as his campaign head and later White House chief strategist. Under Banner's leadership, the website Breitbart made white nationalism a central theme. It featured a section, for example, on black crime. Trump endorsed and campaigned for Roy Moore, the Alabama Senate candidate who spoke positively about slavery and who called for an African-American Muslim member of Congress not to be seated because of his religion. And also, this is the man who was accused of pedophilia, molesting these teenage girls. And he damn near won, too. That's the crazy part. He damn near won. Trump pardoned and fulsomely praises Joe Arpaio, the Arizona sheriff sanctioned for racially profiling Latinos and for keeping immigrants in brutal prison conditions. Again and again, again and again and again. Is this what Martin Luther King died for? In the 1990s, Trump took an advertisement out alleging that the Mohawk Indian record of criminal activity is well documented. At the time, he was fighting competition for his casino business. And as soon as he became president, he went ahead and put the green light on the what's it called? The pipeline. I forgot the name of it, but he went ahead and put the go-ahead on the pipeline that was blocked by President Obama that was affecting Indian ground. Well, Trump went ahead and had that thing going again, and they've already spilled some oil. I think it was like 40,000 barrels, something along those lines. They've already made a mess and spilled some oil in some rivers. But the Keystone Pipeline, that's what it was. It was the Keystone Pipeline that he wanted done. Because as soon as he became president, he said he wants that initiative back on, which is exactly what he did. And like I said, that was infringing on Indian land and sacred Indian land. But to Donald Trump and all of them, they could care less about how sacred other people's land is because they just want the money, right? And so again, I ask y'all, I mean, is this what Dr. King died for the president of 2018 to continue on initiatives that infringe on people's lands, their rights, their culture, their religions, their race, everything that makes them a human being, he infringes on. And 40 years ago, Dr. King died for this just not to happen at a local level, let alone at a federal. So when we think about the civil rights movement, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about some of the individual benefits that the civil rights movement has had on race, on gender, et cetera, right? It's because one thing's for sure is it didn't collectively help the intended group, but on an individual level, there are some that have benefited. Now, obviously, unfortunately, individuality doesn't cure the case of the collective. Now, the dropout rate of African American students from the age of 16 to 24 declined from 20.5% in 1976 to 13% in 1996, which is a good thing, right? High school graduation rates among African Americans have increased substantially in the past 20 years and drawn much closer to the high school graduation rates of whites. Now, I mean, you'd like to assume that's progress, but like I said, for me, it's telling you there was some improvements, but not only is it even close to being close, not even close to being even, but we still ain't even there yet, right? You can call that progress, but I don't. 1990, 66.2% of African Americans aged. Sorry if I want more for my own. You know what I'm saying? Sorry if I want more of my people to be graduated. You know what I'm saying? To be educated, and fully educated. In 1990, 66.2% of African Americans aged 25 and over had completed high school. In 97, 74.9% of African Americans aged 25 and over had completed high school. So 66%, 74% in 97, somewhat of an increase, right? Overall student participation in advanced placement classes has increased dramatically since 1982, rising from 140,000 to 400,000 in 1997 high school graduates. Especially impressive is the growth in participation of minority students. In 97, the percent of AP candidates who were minority students was 29% compared to 11% in 1982. Now, student performance on the National Assessment of Educational Progress has increased in science, math, and reading recovery, most of the ground lost in 1970s. The gap in performance between white and African American students has narrowed substantially since the 1970s. See? So, I mean, I will, that's what I'm saying. So if I see good things, I'll definitely show y'all, you know what I mean? But like I said, for me, y'all need to understand that I'm looking at this statistically, and then on an individual level, these are great numbers, but on a collective level, unfortunately, that's not what the case was, right? Because, and the reason why that wasn't the case is because majority of these people were being, when I say these people, majority of Caucasians didn't want integration. So we have to understand that in civil rights forced integration. So when forced integration was implemented, then white America created ways of resisting that, right? For example, when in I think it was 1968, forced integration was introduced to OU, right? So the first class of black kids that came to OU, when they came in, they thought they can just come in and sit down in the classroom, but that wasn't the case. The OU staff created barriers in the classroom to where the black students had to sit literally in the hallway and outside the classroom, and it was hard for them to hear. So it was difficult for them to learn. So my point is that because of the forced integration, the general public, at least the ones that weren't with the integration, because obviously there was a percentage of white people who said, hey, this is all good with me, which I'm sure there is a nice percentage of white people who go, look, this is all good with me. This is what we've been wanting, right? And I know they exist. I know they exist. I know y'all are out there. But unfortunately, you guys are not the majority, right? So, and still to this day, you guys are not the majority, unfortunately. So the fact is that these there were strategies and things implemented in regards to make black people jump through hoops, so to speak, when integration was implemented onto a population of people who did not want it. So for me, that's what I honestly feel like that was the main problem in regards to civil rights, was that they were forcing white people to integrate with black people, as opposed to learning black people so then we naturally integrate with each other. You see? Now the reason why that was so is because spiritually, culturally, in every other level of society, the promotion of degrading black people was prevalent. So my point is this: in a Christian Bible in the 50s and 60s, and even to this day, in a Caucasian household, the curse of Ham was the justification of a black man being a slave. So my point is that you can't teach that a black man by God is ordained to be a slave, but then the next day they can come work with you. You see what I'm saying? So that's confusing to a white person going, well, shit, y'all were teaching me I thought these people are, you know what I'm saying, they're not even human. And now you guys are making us come live with us, and they have to be in our neighborhoods. So we have to understand that that's the perception and attitude that majority of people had back in those days, right? It was a small, significant, not significant, but it was a small percentage and very insignificant group that welcomed black people with open arms. There wasn't a whole bunch of them. Yes, they existed. Absolutely, they existed. But my point is that there were more people who weren't they weren't, they weren't too kind to the to the idea of black people moving in their neighborhoods, because like I told you that in every other aspect of them living, black people are inferior. So if there was more of an implementation of who we are back then, I feel like there would have been more of an understanding with integration and other races of people going, okay, well, now I know, I know somewhat of y'all's culture. I know y'all's likes and dislikes. I know if that was more prevalent during integration, literally almost like consultation, right? Like meet and greets. Like they literally should have had shit like that, like meet and greets, white and black meet and greets, where white people and black people sat down and literally talked and just had functions together where they got to know each other and get to know each other's cultures. But that didn't happen. They were just forced to go, hey, you start going to this school because y'all need to start being around each other. That's not fucking integration. That's not making things better. That's forcing things to be better. Which, did they make them better? No. And so we see with these percentages that the significance wasn't much, right? In 1970s, what is it? Yeah, it was, the dropout rate declined from 20.5% to 13%, right? Now, how many years is that? That's 30 years. That's 30 years that it only dropped 7%. So, like I'm saying, like I really feel like these things they could have been bigger numbers if they were implemented the right way, as opposed to them being shoved down people's throat. These things could have been taught, literally taught to the people that don't know. They could have been taught, right? Now the other side of the civil rights movement slash affirmative action and the results of it is the fact that statistically, when you look at the incarceration rates for African Americans, they're still just as bad, if not worse, in the 60s. When you look at positions of decision making in all levels of government, they're still just as shitty as the 60s. When you look at the wealth distribution of the country and the corporate world, it's still overwhelmingly one side, just like the 60s. And so if you want to make any type of impact on your neighborhoods, on your people, in regards to their welfare, in regards to their academia, in regards to their health, there has to be a balanced demographic of leadership in the levels of authority that I just described. The only way that there will be healthier black people is if there is a hospital and hospitals, plural, owned by black people in black neighborhoods, because black people know how the black body ticks. So if there were some black hospitals owned by black people in black neighborhoods, health of black people would be better. If there were banks, corporate companies, if there was more that were owned by black people, and there would be more black people being employed by black people. If there were more colleges, and not just historically black colleges. I'm talking about just any goddamn college. If there was more quote unquote Ivy League colleges all over this country that also catered to black people, there would be more educated black people, instead of black people always running to majority of white colleges where there's majority of fucking white people there. Now, I don't mind integration at all, but my point is that white people don't make colleges for black people. White people make colleges for their kids, white kids. They make, OU was not made for an Indian or a black person or a Mexican. That was made for a white person. North Carolina, UNC, was not made for a black person or Indian or Chinese. It was made for a white person. And I can keep going and keep going. University of Texas, I can keep going. A lot of these schools, black people won't even allow. So my point is that until we have our own colleges that we can call our own, and not just call them historically black colleges because they're so fucking few, then there will be more of us that are educated. There will be more of us that do have more opportunities. If we have more of a balanced demographic in the House and Senate, there will be more decision making on the federal level that affect Black people, obviously to the benefit, because there will be people who are in that culture that are making decisions for the people who know that culture and recognize that culture because they're part of it, as opposed to people who are alien to that culture. Not only are they alien to that culture, but they don't even dare to want to know it, making the decisions for those people who look totally different from them. So those are the factors, and these are the things that Dr. King died for. Not just we can drink out of the same damn water fountain, or watch or sit in the same movie theater. No, it's about us sitting in the same courtroom and both being judges, and there's both even numbers of Supreme Court judges. It's about us sitting in the same Congress, and there is an even balanced number of us making decisions that affect all of our neighborhoods and our kids. That is what Dr. King was fighting for. Not so I can go sit in an ice cream, a fucking ice cream fucking parlor, and just because I'm Black. I don't give a fuck about ice cream parlor. I want education for my kids. I want safe neighborhoods for my kids. That's what I don't have any kids, but you know what I'm saying, for my babies out here, for our futures. That's what I want. I want decision making that reflects the needs and the wants of my people and my kids and our futures. That's what Dr. King died for. He didn't die for 2018 for a president to be elected that not only completely racially disrespected the first Black president, but continuously degrades women, calls them fat, ugly, tells you to grab them by the pussy, calls countries shitholes and the people in them shitholes, and says that African Haitians have AIDS, and Nigerians, once they see America, they go back to their huts. That is not what Dr. King marched and died for. But ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand that when I'm not going to say we, but when y'all vote in a man like that, y'all are spitting on that man's face. Y'all are spitting in Dr. King's face. What do you think Dr. King would say right now? I know he's been rolling in that grave. To hear some of the comments that this man has made, Trump that is, what would you think Dr. King would say? And then when and if, like, let's say Dr. King did say something, how do you think your president would have replied? Would he have replied with class? Would he have replied with maturity? No. We all know how he would have replied. He would have said something not only just racist as hell, but condescending. He would have said something just completely offensive. So I am not impressed with a man who calls himself a billionaire that says he would have sex with he would date his own daughter, which literally means he'd have sex with his own daughter, because when you date somebody, that's all you're doing. But he would literally say he would date his own daughter if he wasn't related to him. Has a nuclear war, my dick's bigger than yours, that causes an alarm to be tripped in Hawaii, and people are running for their lives and scurrying into bunkers. Continually rages on, offensive, and promotes nothing but offensive language. Abroad, do y'all understand that abroad people are watching this? People are watching this. So before, I kind of conclude everything, I wanted to touch on, statistically, who did the civil rights and affirmative action really help? Statistically, who really benefited? I don't know if you've heard about the story about Abigail Fisher, but U.S. Supreme Court is expected to rule in a potential landmark case on the constitutionality of affirmative action. The original lawsuit was filed on behalf of Abigail Fisher, a woman who claims that she was denied admission to the University of Texas because she was white. But study after study shows that affirmative action helps white women as much or even more than it helps men of women of color. Ironically, Fisher is exactly the kind of person affirmative action helps the most in America today. Originally, women weren't even included in the legislation attempting to level the playing field in education and employment. The first affirmative action measure in America was an executive order signed by President Kennedy in 1961, requiring the federal contractors take affirmative action to ensure that applicants are employed and employees are treated during employment, without regard to their race, creed, color, or national origin. In 1967, President Johnson amended this, and the subsequent measure included sex, recognizing that women also face many discriminatory barriers and hurdles to equal opportunity. Meanwhile, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 only included sex in the list of prohibited forms of discrimination because conservative opponents of the legislation hoped that including it would sway moderate members of Congress to withdraw their support for the bill. Still, in a nation where white women and black people were once considered property, not allowed to own property themselves and not allowed to vote, it was clear to all those who were seeking fairness and opportunity that both groups faced monumental obstacles. Now, while people of color individually and as groups have been helped by affirmative action in subsequent years, data and studies suggest white women in particular, have benefited disproportionately. According to one study, in 95, 6 million women, the majority of whom were white, had jobs they wouldn't have had otherwise held but for affirmative action. So, if y'all don't understand that, I'm going to read it to y'all again. According to one study, 95, 6 million women, majority of whom were white, had the jobs they wouldn't have otherwise held but for affirmative action. Now, another study shows that women made greater gains in employment at companies that do business with the federal government, now which are therefore subject to federal affirmative action requirements than in other companies. Now, with female employment rising 15.2% at federal contractors, but only 2.2% elsewhere. And the women working for federal contractor companies also held higher positions and were paid better. Even in the private sector, the advancement of white women eclipsed those of people of color. This is back in them days. After IBM established its own affirmative action program, the numbers of women in management positions more than tripled in less than 10 years. Data from subsequent years show that the number of executives of color at IBM also grew, but not nearly at the same rate. The successes of white women make a case not for abandoning affirmative action, but for continuing it. As the numbers in the Senate and the Fortune 500 show, women still face barriers to equal participation in leadership roles. Of course, the case for continuing affirmative action for people of color is even greater. The median wealth of white households is 20 times that of black households. Researchers found that the same resume for the same job application will get twice as many callbacks for interviews if the name on the resume is Greg instead of Jamal. You see, and that's touching on what I was talking about in regards to back in the civil rights movement. If it was implemented like I was saying, is that people got to learn each other's cultures, then Jamal wouldn't sound so fucking crazy, right? It wouldn't sound crazy because people would know, oh yeah, no, that doesn't sound, I know a Jamal, I've known a Jamal or whatever the fuck. But see, Jamal sounds crazy because most white people, they don't associate with black people. They live in their own neighborhoods. They don't go to black people's neighborhoods. If they do have a black friend, they got that one black goddamn friend. That's it. So that's my point is that we culturally were not integrated, right? Platonically, socially, we're not integrated. But see, politically, they forced the integration. And so it shows right here, the study shows, researchers found that the same resume for the same job application will get twice as many callbacks for interviews if the name on the resume is Greg. Why? Because Greg sounds more common around white people because Greg is a common name to them because that's the people they hang around. But my point is that if a lot more Gregs and Jamals got together, then fucking Greg or Jamal wouldn't sound weird to either one. If a lot more Gregs and Jamal hung out, Greg or Jamal wouldn't sound weird to either one. School districts spend more on predominantly white schools than predominantly black schools. I mean, we can see that right now. We can look at this. We can just look at the schools right now. Think about where you at and think about the schools. The fact that black workers earn on average 35% less than white workers in the same job isn't erased by the election of an African American president. One who, by the way, openly praises the role of affirmative action in his life and accomplishments. So understand, folks, that even to this day, on average, a black worker on average makes 35% less. Researchers found that the resume of the same job will get twice as many callbacks in the interview if the name is Greg instead of Jamal. This is today, not 1960. As for Fisher, there is ample evidence that she just wasn't qualified to get into University of Texas because she's an idiot. After all, her grades weren't that great. And the year she applied for the university admissions, they were really actually more competitive than Harvard's. In its court filings, the university has pointed out that even if Fisher received a point for race, she still wouldn't have met the threshold for admissions. So yes, it is true that in the same year, the University of Texas made exceptions and admitted some students with lower grades and test scores than Fisher. 5 of those students were black or Latino. 42 were white. Oh shit! That was the whammy right there. So out of the so they're saying out of the affirmative action over there, 5 students were black or Latino, 42 were white. So that's affirmative action for you folks. That's gonna let you know. That lets you know everything about affirmative action. So that's where we are, 2018. 2018, we have a president that calls people of dark skin and where they're from shithole countries, and they have AIDS and they live in huts, right? When black people protest in the NFL peacefully, he calls them sons of bitches. Not even, obviously insulting them, but not insulting their mothers. I can go on and on. But I ask y'all, I'm going to keep asking you, is this what Dr. King died for? Is this what we call progress? Is that what we call progress? And what would Dr. King say today? What would Dr. King tweet after, let's just say somehow we woke him up and we were catching him up. We're like, Dr. King, he said, what's going on, brother? I said, Dr. King, man, you just got to watch the tape I got for you. Just break it down to me, brother. I said, nah, just watch the tape. I can't. I mean, I don't even know how to tell you this, doc. Play the tape, brother. And I press play. And then he starts watching Trump's press conferences, starts watching his tweets, watching how he's talking about grabbing women by the pussy, all this crazy shit. Imagine what Dr. King would say. And I imagine what your president's reply would be if he heard what Dr. King said about him. Imagine what your president's reply would be. He would probably cuss him out just as quick as he cusses out anybody else. So I'm not fooled by this fake, disrespectful ass comments of this fake respect that he has for Dr. King. I'm not fooled by it because you damn sure don't act like it. And anybody, like I said, who voted for that man, understand what you stand for now. Whether you thought you were voting for a wall or taxes, whatever it is, understand now what you represent. Understand your vote and what you represent, who you represent and what you represent. And now try to correlate that with Dr. King. Would you be able to stand next to King after supporting such a man who seems more kin to Hitler and Mussolini and Stalin than anybody else? And what does that say to how of an example that we're setting for our seeds? By condoning such a man to be your leader, as if there's something better that he has that you don't have. Is this what Dr. King died for? Is this what we call progress? What would Dr. King say today? How would your president respond to that? Ask yourself these questions. You can march all day. March ain't putting nobody into that White House. A march is not going to even out the demographic of the House, the Senate, and the Congress. Marching is not going to build us colleges and safe neighborhoods. Marching is not going to increase our equity and our corporate presence. Marching is not going to own us basketball teams and basketball stadiums so we can start hiring our own in our own neighborhoods and bringing wealth into our own neighborhoods. Marching ain't doing that. Marching ain't going to do that. Marching ain't going to do that. What revolution do you know that was brought in with a march? What revolution do you know that was won by marching everywhere? Just walking. What revolution do you know? What changes were made? I'm talking about real changes. You know, people don't understand that to stand for something and stand for something to where you are you're fearlessly to the point where it doesn't matter what they do. They can't kill the message. You can kill as many of the messengers as you want, but you will never kill the message. It'll keep coming. It'll keep coming, and one day it's going to stay. And one day it's going to stay. So I will march when Dr. King's dream has been fulfilled. That's the day I march. I'm not going to march and run around here and sing, "We shall overcome," while we're not overcoming. I don't run around singing, "I'm going to get rich." So why the fuck should I sing about why that I will overcome when I'm not overcoming? I'd rather overcome, and then I'll sing about how I overcame. Because I feel like us just talking about how we're going to overcome will never get us to the level of overcoming it and getting done. If I keep singing about building a house, when will I build the fucking house? You know, all praise and respect to Dr. King. I thank you for everything you done did, man. I thank you for everything you did for us. And you, out of anybody else, You did what you thought was best, right? You did what you thought was best. And I understand that. You played the cards you were dealt. And even though they killed you like a dog, you were far from that. Your spirit still shines to this day, Dr. King. You were still alive and well in my heart. And a lot more people like me who are picking up where you left off. We ain't marching until the job's done. Until the job's done. When is the job done? When you see an equal demographic of people that reflect the population that they are governing. When is the mission completed? When you see a president who is presiding over the demographic of people that he cares for based on how he acts and not how he talks. When is the mission completed? Is when we see a fair demographic in our academia. And just as many white kids learn as just as many black kids, Mexicans, Indians, so on and so forth. That's when we complete the mission. Until then, y'all playing their game. Y'all just want to sing goddamn "We Shall Overcome" and have Trump give fake ass speeches about how he respected the man when he spits on his grave every fucking day. Every day. When everything he stands for literally promotes the opposite of Dr. King. That's like fucking Hitler talking about how much he respects Gandhi or some shit like that. Or some weird shit. We're like, why are y'all even talking? You can't even talk about this. Y'all are oil and water. So, like I said in the beginning, to the King family, yo, out of respect for your father, I'm not even gonna say nothing about the King kids and the statement that the young King made. Out of respect from your father, I'm not even gonna touch it. But you holding us back too. Talking about the president ain't racist. He's just ignorant to race. I don't know how much they paid you to say that, but like I said, your father stood for something. I don't know about you, but your father definitely stood for something. Like I said, man, rest in peace, Dr. King. We're going to keep it pushing for you, man. I'm going to keep pushing this information in your honor. I'm going to keep my foot on their neck in your honor in regards to letting anyone and everyone knows who comes across my channel in regards to how it really is out here. And if you don't believe me, like I said, go look it up. Challenge what the information that I put up. This is not just my opinion. I'm giving y'all facts. You know? So, like I said, rest in peace, Dr. King. I thank you for everything you did. I really do. And I respect your honor. And the only way that I can honor you is by picking up where you left off and doing what I can, right? So, like I said, folks, ask yourself these questions. What would MLK say today? And how would your president reply? And is this what MLK died for? Is this what he sacrificed himself for? For this shit? It's disgusting, man. Hey, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good one. Peace.